de la Cruz is characterized as an intellectual prodigy. She lived during the 17th century and at the age of 21 became a nun. As I reflected on the account of Sawana, I thought of the striking similarities between she and my mentor, Reverend Leslie Stevens. Reverend Stevens is a 29-year-old minister, preacher, teacher, and counselor who serves at a local Baptist church in Durham, North Carolina. As I review Reverend Stevens, I will refer to the life of Sowana Inez de la Cruz. I will also incorporate ideas supported by Barbara Hannawalt's article, Women in Household Economy in the Pre-Industrial Period, an assessment of women, work, and family in the 17th century. I conclude that women play an important role in the Christian church in 21st century through writing, teaching, and performing. Some factors that contribute to a woman's work in the church are denominations, family structure, and life cycle. I ask that Reverend Leslie Stevens considers this thesis and speak to those contributions in the interview. Sowana Inez decided to enter the religious life as a nun because it was not possible for women to pursue university studies. The only choice she had was to engage in religious life because she wanted to learn. Why did you choose to enter into religious life?
I chose to enter into religious life because I believe that I was called. At the age of 21, I was in a period in my life where I was trying to figure out what I would do for my career. So at that point in time, I began fasting and praying and seeking God, and I felt the call to enter into religious life, pursuing as a minister at that time.
Sowana Inez was an intellectual prodigy. She dedicated herself to a life of study, writing, and religious devotion. I know at that time writing was a vital way to get one's thoughts out to influence a wider audience. Do you, as a female minister, have writing published that gave you a platform to reach a wider audience?
I do not yet. I still feel like I still have some growing and learning to do before I begin to write and publish materials and books. But I do know that now it's not uncommon for women to write inspirational books and even commentaries about the Bible and things like that.
Because Sowana Inez was a scholarly woman writing during the 17th century, she gained some critics. She once got into a debate with a priest concerning a biblical account. She was seen as disrespectful, and the bishop wrote her a letter demanding that she give up her academic quest and only perform her religious duties. How does that compare to what you have experienced working as a female preacher and teacher?
In other Baptist churches and other denominations as well, women are not invited in the pulpit. It's difficult sometimes when I go to various areas of this state of North Carolina or even Virginia. One particular instance in Virginia, when I got up to preach, a guy walked out, and I was told later that he doesn't believe in women being preachers. And the Bible, one of Paul's epistles, speaks of that women should not say much in a church meeting, and therefore no woman should be able to teach over a man and things like that. And I think that's where we get that tradition from. Very controversial topic. But I do feel that when a woman is called to do a work, whether it's like Sowana Inez in writing, and God has given her the gift to be vocal, and myself as a female and a minister, a preacher and a teacher, and any other young woman that's called, we're called for a purpose. We're called for a reason. And it's definitely hard because every church won't allow you to
Men
preach.
have always had a say in what types of work women do. In an article by Barbara Hannawalt that assesses women, work, and family in the 17th century, Hannawalt brings up writings that confirm women's roles divided by age and sex. Some still believe that women should take on more domestic and less vocal roles if they choose to work. How has this concept played out in your work?
Very similar to what I stated before. Some men don't believe that women should be preachers. Some men don't believe that women should stand in the pulpit and preach and teach a man anything, because women are supposed to be subservient to the man, and you get into some gender role issues there. I believe, for me, that I've been called to do this. Now, luckily, we're in the 21st century, and that allows me to preach and teach to men and women. If I weren't allowed to preach and teach the men and women, I would find a role teaching women.
Sawana Arnaz stated that she had a strong feeling of dislike for marriage, which made convent life more respectable. As a woman who works in the church, as a minister, and as a teacher, how does marriage play a role in your life?
Well, I am currently not married, have never been married. I would like to be married. As I think about what marriage would do, or how marriage would fit in terms of the ministry, it's really hard for me to think of what it may be like for me to have a marriage and a family and have a ministry. Everything I do now, I'm constantly thinking about the ministry, and I have no ties to family or home or a husband to serve and be there for. So if I'm called to serve in the church, I consider what may it be like if my husband wants me to stay at home with him and I'm called to go into service, or if we have a family function that he would really like for us to be a part of, but I can't get away because I have to be here for the service. It's definitely something to take into consideration. Those women who are ministers and preachers and teachers serving in the church full time. I know some who are married and who are able to have that familial relationship and marriage relationship and still serve in the church. And I know some who have just chosen to allow ministry to be their main focus, so that there is no divide.
In the Hannah Wall article, the author talked of how the life cycle played a role in the type of work that she did. If she were young, married, divorced, or widowed, she may hold different roles. How do you feel that your life cycle has played a role in your choice to pursue work in the church?
Well, since I've been in ministry since age 21, I'm 29 now, so that's 8 years. I've been single the entire time, and I'm young. So that I am young, I'm able-bodied, I am a female, so those things are working toward my advantage right now because I'm not married and I don't have any kids. So at this life cycle, it's advantageous for me to get all this work in.
Family structure and life cycle appear to play a huge role in women's decision to work in the church, as stated before. How can a woman serve in the church, work, and service as Sawana Arnaz and you have?
Myself and Sawana, we've chosen lives dedicated to the ministry, and only the ministry. Me for the past 8 years, her for a lifetime. I'm not sure if mine will be a lifetime. But if a woman chose not to dedicate her life and be fully engaged in full-time ministry, there's so many other things that she could do. I think about performance in the church, especially in our African American churches. We have a lot of room for performing. You can sing in a choir, you can dance, you can be a part of the drama ministries, you can be engaged in mime. There's so many things that we do in the Black African American church that allows a woman to take a role without being the center.